Good morning, stakeholders, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We're going to tackle FFC renewals, registration systems, and we're going to look at other regulatory updates. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules this morning to just join us for these 2 hours so that we can ensure that we communicate regarding compliance, today to improve our services, as your stakeholders. The time is exactly 10 o'clock and we are going to start. My name is Naledi Mphahlele, and I am responsible for bringing you different speakers, different topics in the webinars so that you can engage with our internal and external speakers to answer some of your questions. And part of this is also to bring awareness. I come from the marketing department. And today we are joined by our speaker, Advocate Deborah Weil. She is the Executive Manager of the Licensing and Exemptions Department here at the PPRA. And she's the one who's responsible for ensuring you receive your Fidelity Fund certificate, that tool of trade. And she also enforces the legislation. We know it's a new one. And she's also an admitted advocate. For some of you who joined our webinars before, you are familiar with her. She comes with 38 years experience, and she focuses mostly on litigation, legislative compliance, and civil liabilities. So today she's going to unpack FFC renewal requirements and what are those challenges that you are facing so that she can assist. And she will focus on just enhancements that they are busy with in the background, regarding the system when it comes to registration systems. And she will just highlight for you what has been the changes, especially when it comes to regulations. So, colleagues, you will see that I've muted everyone. Throughout the session, you're going to be muted so that we can allow Advocate to give her presentation. And you can use the chat or the Q&A function to post any comments or any questions. And all the questions, we will unmute you after the presentation, and then we can deal with the questions. She will try to answer everyone today after the session. And this webinar today is being recorded, and we're going to share it on our PPRA YouTube channel so that you can reference to it maybe after, and even those who couldn't attend, they can also go to the webinar to see some of the questions. And yes, I know I'm going to get a question of getting the slides. Yes, you will get the slides. I'm going to email everyone who registered for the webinar. I see Advocate, you already shared the presentation. I think we can start now. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Naledi. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the presentation. I'm very pleased to have everybody here so that we can explain to you some of the changes that are happening in our industry, as well as explain some of the ways forward from our point of view. For those of you who know me, as Naledi said, I'm the Executive Manager for Registrations and Licensing. I've only been in this position for around almost a year, and there are a huge number of changes that we have to bring in because of the regulations which came in with the Property Practitioners Act, which have not yet been implemented and which require implementation. Like anything, it's a birth process, which is always painful and always difficult, and it requires cooperation from everybody. We have placed a lot of notices on our website to explain various aspects. So those of you who've had a look at that will be aware of how things have been going and why we've had some of the difficulties that we've had, and also how to navigate those difficulties. But I'm going to start off with the new concept, which relates to what we call a floating or industry-based Fidelity Fund certificate. Now, you will see on the slide that I look first of all at what we are familiar with, which is the status prior to the Property Practitioners Act and Regulation 4122, which has been the one that's caused us all these headaches. So currently, your historical framework is that each firm always had its own Fidelity Fund certificate in its own name. Each firm also had a principal or more than one principals, and various employees or agents. If they were estate agents, they were either candidates or full status agents. If they were not estate agents, any of the other industries, they had directors or employees. Each branch of a firm also was required in terms of the Act and legislation under the Estate Agent Affairs Act to have its own FFC. Each director had a Fidelity Fund certificate also, including non-executive directors who were issued with specific kinds of Fidelity Fund certificate. Every firm and principal had to have a trust account for which the principal was responsible. And each firm, principal, employee, and branch paid for a Fidelity Fund certificate to be issued. So basically, each firm and each principal had to have a Fidelity Fund certificate under the same firm, as well as under any other firm which the principal was associated with. And the same applied to agents. So we look at now what the changes are, basically, that have come in terms of Regulation 4122. And because of the system which was required under the old Act, it's taken some time for us to find a solution as to how we implement what Regulation 4122 requires. And we'll be looking at 4122 in a moment. But just briefly, as a summary, let's have a look at what's changed. First of all, now, as before, each firm has its own Fidelity Fund certificate. Each firm has a principal and employees. And then the first change is that each principal and employee only have one Fidelity Fund certificate. No matter how many firms you're associated with as a principal, you only have one Fidelity Fund certificate. And you no longer have to have a Fidelity Fund certificate which is associated with each firm that you represent. Each branch still has to have its own Fidelity Fund certificate. Each director still has a Fidelity Fund certificate, whether it's not necessarily under the firm that they're associated with, but a general floating Fidelity Fund certificate, which allows them to operate under any firm that they are registered under. But under the new regulations, a non-executive director applies for an exemption, and then he need not register at all. He is exempted from registration under the PPRA. As previously, firms can apply for an exemption from a trust account if they do not receive trust money. So you go through an exemption or trust account exemption application if you do not receive trust money, and you can apply to the audit department for that to happen. Now, currently, under the new regime, only natural persons pay for a Fidelity Fund certificate. So firms and branches do not pay 2,768 Rand, as it currently is, for their FFC. They do, however, pay an admin fee, which is payable for services not charged for under the Act. And the admin fee for a firm's Fidelity Fund certificate is 640 Rand. So those are basically the changes, and we'll move on to some further explanations as to how and when they apply. So the first change, as I've mentioned, is the industry-based or floating Fidelity Fund certificate. As we said, under the EAAB, each principal had a Fidelity Fund certificate under each firm that he was associated with. Regulation 4122 states as follows. Where a natural person acts as a property practitioner in different capacities within the same industry, a single Fidelity Fund certificate shall be issued to that natural person in respect of all capacities in which they act as a property practitioner within the industry. Right, so this is somewhat different to what we are used to. Right, looks like we had an interruption. Let me just get the. Can everybody still see the presentation, Naledi?
Yes, we can see it, but I also think maybe we can put it on slide mode, but if you can't,
Okay,
yes,
sure.
we can see.
I can do that. Yeah, it just means I won't be able to see any questions later. You'll just have to assist me, but that's
Yes,
fine. And just interrupt me if needed because I can't see anything on the screen. So I'm just going to put it onto slide mode. Is that better?
yes, it's better.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's look at Regulation 4122, where a natural person acts as a property practitioner in different capacities within the same industry. A single fidelity fund certificate shall be issued to that natural person in respect of all capacities in which they act as a property practitioner within that industry. Now, you will know that this has thrown all our previous systems on their heads. Previously, if you were a candidate, you had to have an FFC which said you were a candidate. If you were a principal, you had to have an FFC which said you were a principal, and it had to say which firm you were principal of. Okay, that has now been done away with. You also had to have one FFC for every firm that you were associated with. And our difficulty has been to implement systems that are able to do this. And the reason being that our systems were specifically designed in such a way that your firm FFC and your agent's FFC under any firm would not issue unless the principal of that firm had his own FFC under that firm. So it meant a complete change and a complete adjustment of our systems. Right, so just to explain the industry-based or floating FFC, and you can see under the old Act that principals, employees, and firm FFCs were interdependent for each firm. So when a principal renewed his own FFC under a specific firm, the firm FFC generated and issued along with it. And if he did not renew under his firm, no firm FFC or any of the agents' FFCs would issue. And that was in line with the previous legislation. Employee FFCs issued based on your firm and your principal FFC. Now, under the new Act, we have instead, in terms of Regulation 4122, your principal, who has one floating FFC, which is valid for use for all firms that he is registered for. And please understand, ladies and gentlemen, that this applies to all firms that he is registered under with us. So our records indicate who he is registered under, and it doesn't authorize him to operate under a firm that is not registered with us and that we have not registered him to. So please be aware of that, and that remains a contravention if we go and operate under various firms that we are not authorized to operate under because of a failure to comply with the Act in respect of those firms. Act still requires that you register with us and that you register in a particular capacity and that you operate in line with the requirements of the regulations. And that requires you to register with us under whichever firm you're going to operate under. And then whichever FFC you have will cover that operation. Your employees also will have one floating FFC, which will be under an employer, but in fact it will not be associated with a specific employer. So it authorizes them to operate under any firm that they are registered under. However, in having made these changes, the Act and regulations do not change the requirement that a firm must have its own fidelity fund certificate. So there is a dichotomy there which doesn't make a lot of sense, but nevertheless it means that your firm's FFC is required in every single aspect, in every single firm that you're associated with, but your own FFC under that particular firm is not required. So the important thing about this change is that since principals only renew a floating FFC when it expires and it is not necessarily linked to a particular firm, firm FFC must be independently renewed and issued. So just by way of example, we have Joe, who is a principal. He has 3 firms, Moneybags Realty. His FFC was issued in 2025. My Property, which is another firm, and its FFC was issued and expires in 2027. Sorry, the year is in fact the expiry, the year of expiry, not the year of issue. And then he has Pay Me Now Estates, which has an FFC also issued, also expiring in 2025. So in 2025, the principal does not need a new Fidelity Fund certificate until 2027 because he has one that is still valid. He doesn't need to renew and he doesn't need to pay for any renewal. In 2025, firm A and C need to pay an admin fee of 640 Rand, and they need to obtain their new Fidelity Fund certificates. So that's just an example of the principle in action. So just to sum up then, as far as firm FFCs are concerned, currently we have practitioners under more than one firm who have multiple FFCs expiring at different times. While one of the FFCs is valid, there's no need for him to apply for a renewal, even if his FFC under the other firms has expired. Once all existing principal FFCs have expired, the next FFC will not be associated with any firm as it is now. So currently we've still got on the system that your FFC was issued under firm Moneybags, even though it now continues to apply to all of your firms. All right, but as soon as all your current FFCs have expired, you will then be given a floating FFC, which is not associated with any firm. And for the moment, the fact that it was issued under a specific firm doesn't stop it from being applicable and valid for all your firms. So eventually your principal FFC will be renewed and issued when it expires, and your firm FFC will be requested, 640 Rand will be paid, and your firm FFC will issue when it expires. So just some notes on that before we move over. No application form is required for a firm Fidelity Fund certificate to be issued. We require payment alone and a simple request, and we do have a request template which can be used. Okay. So as far as that is concerned, Regulation 4122 does not apply to firms. When the principal renews his floating Fidelity Fund certificate, he will apply as required by the regulation and submit compliant documents for himself and all his firms. And he only pays for his own single Fidelity Fund certificate. So when a principal is added to an existing firm or registers a new firm under him, he does not get a new Fidelity Fund certificate. Only the firm gets his FFC, and payment of the admin fee for the firm FFC and the agent's amendment of records are required. Okay, so that basically sums up the firm aspect of it. And in summary, in general, principal FFC no longer have any association with firm FFCs. Your employee's FFC no longer has any association with your employee firm's FFC. Your firm's FFC must be created using a separate function. Principals will need to request and pay an admin fee for their new firm when it expires. Your firm FFC will still only generate if your principal has a valid current floating FFC. Your principal still pays a 3-year FFC fee to renew his floating FFC. Your employees also pay their 3-year renewal fee. A principal who opens a new firm or joins a new firm does not pay for the FFC to be issued for the new firm, for himself under the new firm, or for the firm FFC to be issued itself if he has a valid current floating FFC in his own capacity. So for him to be registered under that firm, he will pay an amount of 640 Rand as an admin fee. And for the new firm, the firm does not pay for an FFC as per Regulation 15.1. It simply pays an admin fee, which covers the costs of issuing the FFC to a firm without charge. Okay, we're going to look very quickly at some of the current portal issues. You will know that our systems are under development currently. We have put notices up in the media as well as on our website over the last several months, explaining that both our SAP system, which is our registration system, as well as our portal are undergoing development in order for us to comply with the regulations. So obviously we've had to work around that, and we have got difficulties, glitches, issues which arise from time to time in the course of that development.
Apologies, Advocate. I see comments. They're saying they cannot hear. Colleagues, if you can hear Advocate, can we see thumbs up? Because maybe if it's only 2 people, they would need to check settings on their side with the volume. Okay, everyone can hear you. Okay, you may continue. I will respond to them.
Thank you. Right, so one of the developments, sorry, I think we've skipped the previous one. Let's go back to the portal slide. Registration of new agents and generation of PIN numbers has been an issue, and you are aware that currently the portal is not allowing you to do that. We have asked you to instead send your documents as well as your details, your application form, etc., to the registrations inbox, and they will generate that PIN for you and deal with your matter. You are also aware that the display of Fidelity Fund certificates is not correct. There are many instances where we've issued Fidelity Fund certificates, but it's not showing as available on the system. Sometimes it's not showing as issued at all. In other instances, it's showing as issued, but it's not available for download. So that's been a huge problem for us over the renewal period. We have the IT department working on that to try and see how they can rectify that. But it's been quite difficult because we are in the process of developing the new registrations portal. So they're having to work on both sides to see what they can get going. So the way we have tried to mitigate that problem is by sending out copies of your Fidelity Fund certificate straight from the server, where we've been requested to do that. And also we are issuing letters to those whose FFCs have been issued, but they are not able to access them, to confirm that your FFC has been issued, you are able to operate, and your commissions, etc., should be paid by the conveyancers. Those are valid up until the end of April, by which time we are sure that our portals issues will be resolved. Also, in terms of the current portal, some principals' access to their firm details are not available. So if you go in as a principal and you want to see a certain firm that you are associated with, sometimes it will bring up a response which says that there's no such firm, or that you're not able to view the details or whatever, which makes things very difficult. And agents who have those issues are also asked to email the registrations inbox so that somebody can assist you. So our solution, which we hope will be in place in the next couple of months, is the new registrations and licensing portal, which will give us much more than what the current one does, apart from showing all your FFCs that have been issued for your firm, your agents, and yourself. It will also give you statistics in relation to the registrations within the property practitioner industry. It will give you information and notices from time to time, which we publish and which we notify you of. It will also give you access to numbers and details of the employees still registered under your firm, their Fidelity funds, etc. We're hoping that that's going to solve a lot of our problems. It's still, as I say, in the development phase, should be completed, we're hoping, within the next month to 2 months. And obviously there'll be a few teething problems, but we're hoping that they will be minimal. The other development that we have on our system is the 12 industries, and this is also in terms of the new Act and the new regulations. And you will be aware, as we have published extensively and on the many webinars that we have held, that we now regulate 12 industries instead of one industry. The 12 industries are now registering on the SAP system. So that means that instead of us having to run a parallel manual system in order to register the 10 non-estate agent industries, we are now able to register you on our SAP system. Your FFCs will now also be issued via the system if you are a non-estate agent, and all industries will also show on our new portal. So you'll be able to deal with your firm on the new portal, just as you were able to do so under the estate agent category. Also, all applications to the registrations department will come via the portal for all industries. Practitioners will register on the portal, and this will occur. You will be able to do this registration and issuing within phase 1 of the development, which is about to come into effect. We have a phase 2, which depends on money as usual. And in terms of phase 2, if we are able to implement that, that will be very much more a state-of-the-art type portal, which will give us exactly what our stakeholders and what we require as far as automation, etc., is concerned. So phase 1 coming in now shortly, and phase 2 hopefully sometime within the year. We need to note, please, for those who are registered or who operate in more than one industry, that in terms of the Fidelity Fund certificates, you must have one for each industry which you operate in. So if you operate in multiple industries, you will have FFCs for each of those industries. So just a reminder of the categories of property practitioners under the PPA. Estate agents we know of. Auctioneers were often previously registered with us under the old Act, but they registered as estate agents. For those auctioneers who are already registered as estate agents, please, you need to remove yourselves as estate agents and register within the auctioneering industry if you are no longer, if you are not operating as estate agents as well. And that is done through us. We will effect that for you. It's the usual application forms that you need, and you need to ensure that you are in fact registered in the correct industry. Bond and bridging finance originators are also required to register. We regulate them. HOAs who perform property practitioner activities are required to register. Managing agents are required to register. Some managing agents who performed body corporate management were required to register under the old Estate Agent Affairs Act, but you had to register as an estate agent because you were defined as an estate agent in those days. You are now defined in your own industry, so managing agents must apply and register in the managing agent industry. And if you are not operating as an estate agent as well, then you need to deregister as an estate agent. Property facilitators and intermediaries are required to register. Business brokers, including those that sell franchises and business undertakings. Developers who market and sell their own developed property are required to register. So this distinguishes a developer from a builder who perhaps builds his own development and then hands it over to a registered licensed estate agent to market and sell. He is not required to register with us. If he does marketing and selling of his own property, he must register with us. Timeshare and fractional ownership practitioners are the next category or industry. Property advertising platforms are also required to register with us. Property practitioners who specialize in collecting and distributing trust money in terms of Regulation 2.4.1. We call them payment processing agents, and these are your payprops and those who take over and manage and open your trust account on behalf of property practitioners so that you don't have to do it yourself. There is a special requirement which is set out by our audit department as to what your payment processing agents have to do to register. It's a more onerous requirement because the regulation requires them to have, in fact, the Act requires them to have what is called a trust environment. And so in order to ensure that there's no loss of money and that they're held accountable for everybody's trust money, the audit department has specific requirements in place for that. And then the last one is attorney employees, which have always been registered as estate agents. They now have their own category, but they perform basically estate agent activities. So those are the 12 categories which you can register under. And it's essential that you establish which of those categories you operate in and then register accordingly. Just also to advise, these are some of the important notes, some of which we've dealt with already, but you will see if you have a business property, your firm is in fact what we call a business property practitioner under the Act, and this must be registered by the person who's responsible for that entity. It will be one of the directors, and that person also registers in their personal capacity, and all persons who perform property practitioner activities for the firm must also register under the firm and have FFCs. So in this instance, those of your employees that simply do answering the telephone or looking after maintaining your offices or something of that nature and doesn't perform property practitioner activities, you are not required to register them with us. And you will see in section 1, under the definition of property practitioner, what the activities are that a property practitioner performs. We have had a number of webinars where I've dealt with that in detail, so I think most of you will be aware of what that entails. As far as registration of an estate agent is concerned, as you're aware, qualified principal is required and all your employees register as candidates. In due course, they become free status agents and certain standards of training are required. In all other industries, your directors register themselves as a director of the firm and everybody else registered under the firm is an employee. And this is because currently there are no standards of training applicable to non-estate agent industries. And so the category of principal, full status agent and candidate do not apply in those industries at this stage. Just a reminder that in terms of the regulations, managing agents manage property and any right, title or interest in property. And they do that on behalf of third parties. Okay, please be aware that asset managers do not generally constitute property practitioners. They do not manage the assets themselves. They simply manage the advice and the portfolio in respect of what they suggest the agent should buy, sell, etc. But they're not involved in the actual selling or buying process or the advertising or marketing process. Okay, mortgage originators already are involved as property practitioners, are defined as such and have to be registered with us unless they are a financial services or rather a financial institution, which is defined and ruled under FSCA. So developers are also those who sell and market their own developed property as part of their development business, and in that instance, they register with us. Right, we'll move on to the registration process, which is evolving in line with the new requirements. So non-estate agent practitioners, in other words, all other industries, these are the 10 industries which have now been added to our system and which we are in the process of registering under the current system, and we are transitioning our manual registration database into the new SAP development system. So IT is in the process of doing that for us. Okay, so registration in a non-estate agent practitioner is done by a director. He submits currently to manual registrations at the PPRA. That will change, and he will now be able to register and submit his documents via the portal as soon as it's working, alternatively to registrations at the PPRA. Okay, so those two will become amalgamated, and this manual registration inbox will then no longer be required, and we will put up a notice when that happens, probably within the next week. Your business property practitioner registration form is also submitted, signed by all directors, and the required documents are set out there for the registration of an entity in terms of Section 50 of the Act. And I've listed them previously. Those of you who have attended our webinars previously can also will recall that this is a slide which I have used previously. The requirement for your SIPC documents, if it's a firm, your bank letter confirming your trust account held in terms of Section 54(1), or alternatively your trust exemption certificate if you have received one, your auditor's letter of confirmation for the entities who hold a trust account, a company resolution allowing the principal to register the firm, a valid BEE certificate. Remember that it doesn't have to be a compliance certificate. It must simply be a record that you have applied for such certificate and what your status is. And then for juristic entities, that is a requirement. And then for SARS, your tax clearance, that is for all firms, whether they're a juristic entity or a sole proprietorship, and then proof of payment of your statutory and administration fees. For individual property practitioners, persons, excuse me, also in that industry, the directors must register themselves individually by submitting the required documents. Your employees then also register themselves individually with the required documents. We've talked about the E1 form, that is your exemption form, and the exemption form is required for all those who are registered in any non-estate agent entity. All you do is you take the exemption form, you fill it in, and you indicate that you are applying to be exempted from the Regulation 33. And the reason for that is that Regulation 33 is the regulation that deals with education requirements. Although it doesn't give education requirements for non-estate agent entities, it does state that we must provide, the PPRA via its education department must provide that training and must decide what standards of training are needed for every industry, and also that we may not allow you to operate unless you have done the practical training associated with your industry as well as passed a board exam, which is the board exam with us, which allows you to operate in that industry. So because we can't offer that yet, we simply ask you to fill in a form so that we can exempt you from that, and that allows us to issue you with a Fidelity Fund certificate. Those forms are available on the website, and please do ensure when you use the form that you're not using one which is specifically associated with a type of exemption which is not applicable to you. It must be for your Regulation 53 exemption. And the reason that you give is simply that we are not able to provide you with the education requirements, and therefore you ask to be exempted. Employees also submit your letter of employment signed by your director and employee, stating the reference number of the director and the firm and a proof of payment. Okay, and as I've said, that is the current registration's address, manual registration's address, which will change within the next couple of weeks. And you will know that instead you now use the registration's email address for all ordinary registrations. This is just a reminder of the estate agent's registration process. It's basically the same principles, submitting documents in order to register their firms, and then themselves and candidates will then submit their own application forms, their letters of employment, your proof of payment, and that you will then issue to registrations at ppra.org.za after we make the change. So just a summary of general changes. We've got you must please remember that the format of your FFC has now changed. Previously, your FFC said whether you were a candidate or whether you were a full status agent or a principal. It doesn't do so anymore, and that is prescribed by the regulations. When you do an upgrade now, you will not get a new FFC because your current FFC remains valid. That will continue as long as we continue to issue 3-year FFCs for candidates. So when we do start to issue your 1-year FFC, which we are commencing to put in place now, it will take a bit of time. We're hoping it will be very soon. But when that happens, after your FFC has expired as a candidate, you will have then, of course, apply for an upgrade to be employed in the new status that you have, and you will then also apply for an FFC because your previous FFC will have expired. But currently, for example, full status agents who become principals, they will not be issued with a new FFC because their current FFC is still valid, and that FFC will be issued when their FFC expires. There's another change, and that is when you deregister a firm. Let's say you are a principal. We take the old example that we had, the principal of the 3 firms we talked about, who still has an FFC up to 2027. Previously, if he deregistered that firm, his FFC associated with that firm would also lapse and become of no further effect. Currently, because that is now a floating FFC and it applies across all firms, it does not lapse anymore, and it remains valid even if the firm is deregistered under which it was issued. As I've mentioned, in due course, your FFC will not be issued under any specific firm, so that problem will eventually fall away. Okay, just a short explanation on administration fees. And this is just to explain briefly what happened with the PPRA when it changed from the State Agency Affairs Board. When the new Act came in, the Estate Agency Affairs Board became the Property Practitioner Regulatory Authority, and we went from regulating 1 industry to regulating 12 industries. We also went from that to a hugely expanded mandate, which included very specific transformation goals. It included very specific education requirements for all of the 12 industries. And obviously the work which the PPRA did was, or the EAB did rather, was literally multiplied many times. This happened at a time when the new Act and regulations cut our income very substantially. Firstly, by making firms obtain Fidelity Fund certificates for free, whereas before they'd paid for them. Secondly, by having principals only get 1 Fidelity Fund certificate instead of 3 or 4 or 5, if they had more than 1 firm, which again cut our revenue. There was also instances in terms of which certain of the transformation requirements required us to put in place various incubation and specialization programs, which cost a large amount of money. And so we had to free up money for that as well. And the other thing which it did is that it changed the regime as far as interest on trust accounts is concerned, so that in many instances we're not able to enforce certain of the trust account provisions which existed previously, and those were changed. So there was a huge gap in the income generated by the Property Practitioner Regulatory Authority compared to what the Estate Agency Affairs Board was able to generate. And that income, having fallen so drastically, came at a time when we were required to perform extensively increased services for 12 industries. So you can imagine that this was simply impossible. This was an absolute impossibility. And bear in mind that the PPRA, as a state-owned entity, does not receive a single cent from the fiscus in order to sustain itself. It has to generate its own money. It has to be completely self-sustaining. And so the use of admin fees, which is used throughout state-owned entities, most of them do impose admin fees for also all these services, was then put into effect by us as well, basically in order to remain financially viable. So that explains your admin fees. Our system upgrades, of course, are expensive, and they take time, and we can only do them as we have money to do them. So that's why you find that you are experiencing the inconveniences which you are, which, believe me, are affecting us equally in relation to how we manage to circumnavigate the systems not functioning as they should and yet still provide a service. We will deal with time periods for issuing of Fidelity Fund certificates in a moment, in a little more detail. And your requirements for Fidelity Fund certificate renewals, of course, have changed as I see. All right, we're now going to move on to section 49, which, beg your pardon. Right, section 49, which, just to explain what this section says, and there's been a lot of misunderstanding of this. I know that Robosa has a different view on what this means. This is a view and interpretation of section 49, which the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority has obtained from its legal representatives by way of opinion, as well as the legal minds within the regulator itself. And this is what is being approached. This is rather the approach which the PPRA section for this. So section 49.1 I have set out there, it says the authority must, within 30 working days, consider any application submitted to it in terms of this act, which fully meets the prescribed requirements. Okay, so it requires the authority to consider a fully compliant application which is sent to it. Okay, the implication is it's not required to consider any other application that is not fully compliant. But that's what the wording says. And it must do that within 30 working days. I don't know if you know what constitutes a working day, but a working day is basically a day that excludes weekends and public holidays. So it's 30 working days, and the PPRA must consider a fully compliant application within that period. And then it goes on to say that that period can be extended on good grounds in writing by the authority if we give reasons as to why. For example, if we've had a cyber attack, or if we've had a flood and everything's been wrecked and we're not able to issue FFCs while that's being repaired, and we give you the reason, and we can then extend that by, again, 20 working days. Again, which is your days excluding weekends and public holidays. Okay, so that's basically 49.1. 49.2 says that the period of 30 working days will commence afresh if we ask you to submit additional information or to correct your application. All right. So if we do consider your application and we find it not compliant, we can ask you to please give us further information, and in that the 30 working days starts again from the time that we submit the correct. So, and then paragraph 3 is the one that causes some confusion, because it says if the authority has failed to comply with subsection 1. So let's look at subsection 1. That is the one which says that within 30 working days, we must consider a fully compliant application, right? So if we fail to do that, the application is deemed to have been approved, and the authority must, upon written request by the applicant within 10 working days, issue the applicant with the FFC. Okay, so if we analyze this, we find the following. The PPRA must consider an application which fully meets the requirements. If it is fully compliant, issue an FFC, and we must do that within 30 working days. If we don't consider a fully compliant application within the 30 working days, The fully compliant application is deemed to have been compliant, and we must issue the FFC within 10 working days. If, however, the application never fully met the requirements, then no deeming provision applies. So it's clear from the context that the deeming provision, which requires us to issue the FFC within 10 days, is based on the fact that your application was compliant. If it was not compliant, the deeming provision doesn't apply. Subsection 49.3 specifically refers to 49.1 applications and not 49.2 applications. Now, in interpretation of statutes in the law, it's a general principle as required by the legislation that if the Act or any legislation specifies one thing, it's presumed to have excluded everything else. So 49.1 is what's specifically referred to, and it is our submission that the 49.3 therefore applies to 49.1 applications. And obviously, if the application fully meets the requirements, we have 30 days to issue your 30 working days to issue your FFC. After the 30 days, we have another 10 working days to issue the FFC on request. Okay, so the drafting of this provision is somewhat problematic. I'm not actually sure if this is what the legislator intended us to read into it. But in terms of interpretation law, we are required to give the words the natural, normal dictionary interpretation of those words in the language in which they are used. And that's precisely what we have done. So the drafting is not a model of clarity. And the worst part of the drafting is that there is no deeming provision that you are deemed to have been issued with a Fidelity Fund certificate if we didn't issue you one within the 30 days and the extra 10 days, which means that it's of no value really to estate agents or property practitioners. Because what it should have said is that if we fail to issue that FFC within the 30 days or on demand within a further 10 days, then your FFC is deemed to have been issued. It doesn't say that. So it falls short of being of any real value to anybody. The next slide for noting, section 4 exemptions, equivalency exemptions, and trust account exemptions. Please be aware that these are three different animals. The one is section 4 exemption from any provision of the Act which you can apply for. An equivalency exemption is an exemption in terms of Regulation 33, which allows you to ask to be exempted from certain education requirements because you have others which are just as good or better. And then you have your trust account exemption, which is an exemption from holding a trust account. And each of these differ in relation to what they cost. They differ in relation to the addresses you have to send your application to, and they differ in relation to the criteria for you to be granted each of these. Section 4 exemptions, which is exemptions from the MDF requirement, exemptions for non-executive directors, etc. Go to Section 4 exemptions at the ppra.org.za. Exemptions at the PPRA are those that require an equivalency exemption or an education exemption. And then your trust account exemption goes to audit at the PPRA. You'll remember also that in relation to Section 4 exemptions, you use your E1 application form and you add whatever motivation you want to. In relation to trust accounts, you use the prescribed affidavit under Regulation 2, where you state that you do not receive trust accounts, you undertake not to do so in the future, and you make various undertakings in that regard. Okay. CPD, please be aware that CPD inquiries can go to Zandile Mahlangu at the PPRA, who is the Executive Manager of Education. Please do not send CPD inquiries to the Registrations Department. We do not deal with them and we are not able to assist you. And please also be aware that escalation to the Executive Manager, myself, and to the CEO is required where you have submitted your request, you are getting no response, and nobody is assisting you, and you require it to be escalated so that somebody can jump on somebody else and make sure they do something. All right. So please do not send your your ordinary applications, your ordinary request to the EM or to the CEO where you've got somebody helping you, okay? Because it just clogs the CEO's inbox, and it makes it very difficult for me to prioritize who I need to help and who I don't. Thank you very much. I hope that that's given you some background, and I'm sure it's going to take us a while to get used to some of the changes. It's taking us a long time, and there are some teething issues with every change. So we apologize for the inconvenience. We are aware that it makes it difficult for everybody. Unfortunately, it's in an attempt to ensure that our systems are working correctly and that we're able to provide you with a better service in due course. So we thank you for your patience, and I would just like to then open it to Naledi, who will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate, for the presentation. We will quickly try to answer all the questions. We have a lot of comments, a lot of Q&A space questions, and I see the hands. We're going to unmute everyone so that you can pose your question. We're also joined by our registrations supervisor, Lerato, is in the meeting. She will be looking at some of your comments and see if she can take your 7-digit to try and assist in the back end so that you can get assistance. Dennis, you say, please comment and advise on your interpretation on section 41 in the regulations. That is this last slide that Advocate dealt with. So we'll take it that it was understood. And if you need clarity, please come through, raise your hand, and she can take you through it again. Let's go to the question. Will you be able to email us the slides? We addressed this in our opening in the intro, that we will share the slides with everyone who registered. Let me see if I have another question here on the chat, Advocate. Do websites like Property24 and Private Property require FFC?
Yes, they do, most definitely. They have to register with us, and they have to obtain a Fidelity Fund certificate. And anybody in their office that performs any property practitioner activity must also register.
Okay, thank you. Olis says, once the application is sent, we do not receive any email to state whether our application is compliant or not. We have to call, and only then we are told we've missed some of the documents or the application form is not filled properly. It is a great hassle, and the question on the call center line, it's not clear. She's saying, are always long. I think you're referring that you are holding long on the call center. The system is forever online. We can't finally get through, but our call center manager is not in the webinar, but Advocate, maybe you can touch on the one of applications, because they don't get acknowledgement once they send applications.
Okay, thank you. Yes. First of all, if you send your application to the correct inbox, an email address, you will usually get an auto response stating that we have received your application. Okay. According to the regulations, we have 30 working days to respond in relation to the issuing of a Fidelity Fund certificate. As you can see, in terms of the regulations and the Act also, we are only obliged to consider and to accept applications which are compliant. Now, there are two ways around this. Obviously, we know that it's difficult for you not to know if your application is compliant or not if we don't tell you. And we certainly will tell you as soon as we can. But you need to understand that we've issued in the last 3 months, we've issued 23,000 Fidelity Fund certificates from 23,000 different applicants. Okay, and there are a large number of firms whose FFCs have not been issued because the principal did not renew his. He was not required to because he had another FFC under a different firm that was still valid, but he did not ask for his FFC to be renewed for his firm. So there are a large number that still have to be issued when the payment is made, etc. So we're dealing with huge numbers here, and we're also dealing with a system that is not properly designed at the moment for us to be able to handle it. So if your application is non-compliant, the chances are that we're not going to get to it anytime soon. And remember that it's the responsibility of the agents to read our notices on the website, to read the information that we give to you, to check the regulations and the Act. You work in a regulated environment, so you are required to know the regulations and the legislation that governs your entity and your practice, your operations. And we do put a lot of information up as to what is needed. So please understand that you need to go and look and see what you need. You send it to us. We will certainly, when we get the ones that appear to be compliant, we deal with them as a matter of urgency as fast as we can. When we can see that they are nowhere near compliant, it takes us a while, first of all, to go through and check. It also takes us a while to see where you fit in the scheme of things, which makes your application not compliant. Are there other factors which cause a disqualification, etc., etc.? And so that takes time. And so you are going to not hear from us for a while. And if your application is not compliant, we will get back to you, and we will do so as soon as possible. But it's not, unfortunately, something that we can undertake to do within a matter of a couple of days. So please be aware of this and try and make sure that your applications are correct. I give one example of your Fidelity Fund certificate renewals. We published as far back as the 1st of July 2025. We published notices on the website, and we did explanations, and we did webinars, and we did everything to explain to people that you need to submit an application form for your renewal, not anymore just a payment. And that's because of the change in Regulation 15 and 22. And yet, a huge number of agents simply just did their payment. And we had thousands and thousands of queries of, where's my FFC? You haven't issued my FFC. Why haven't you issued my FFC? I can't operate, etc., etc. Only to find that, in fact, there were no application forms submitted. So you see, it's very difficult for us as well as for you. You don't ensure that you know what is required to submit your application and that you submit it correctly. You are able, and you're welcome, if within the 30-day period you have not received a response saying, yes, your FFC is issued, or your FFC is not issued because of the following reasons, and we have now come to the conclusion that your application is not compliant, to escalate that to me. I'm happy to do that, and I will certainly have somebody attend to it as a matter of urgency if you escalate it to me. But please don't do it after 3 days, or 4 days, or 5 days. And I find it very strange that practitioners who fail to read what they are required to do, either in the legislation or on our website, and instead do whatever they think they need to do. They don't comply, they apply late, they comply late, and then they require us within 3 days to issue their FFC. Okay, I really don't think that's fair. So please do give us the time that we need, and ensure that your application is compliant as far as possible. The call center does help you with frequently answered questions. I know there are a lot of complaints about the call center. Unfortunately, it doesn't fall under me, and which is probably a good thing for them. But it's something that, please, if you have concerns, please send it to Naledi. She can escalate it to the CEO or the correct person. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Tabang on the Q&A says, is FIC registration still required in registering a new firm?
Okay, currently FIC is still required if you're an estate agent. If you are not an estate agent, it's not required at the moment, but it's going to be required because there is a legislation amendment, which is going to include property practitioners as opposed to estate agents under the FIC system. So, for non-estate agents, it isn't at the moment, but for estate agents, it is.
Okay, thank you. Jamila says, do intense and full status agent titles fall away also?
No, those remain under the estate agent industry, but only under the estate agent industry and your attorney employees.
Okay, I'm going to go to the hands and I'll come back on the chat. Angie, please unmute and ask your question. Angie? Okay, let's go to Carol. Please unmute, ask your question. Carol? Carol, colleagues, can you hear me? Okay, let's go to Kaz. Kaz, please unmute and ask your question. Cass, please come through. Cass, please unmute. I gave you access. All of you, you have access. Okay, you're struggling. Let's go to Alan. Alan, please unmute and ask yourself a question.
Morning, Naledi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've got two questions, please, if I may. First of all, with the new floating FFC for agents, surely it does still mean that an agent can only work for one agency at any particular time. Is that correct? Number one. Number two,
sorry, can you say it again? I didn't hear you saying one agent cannot work for how many firms? I didn't get that.
my question is, in the past, for any particular agency at any point in time under the principal FFC, does that still apply?
Yes. Okay, let me deal with that quickly before you move on to your other questions. Your estate agent or your employee, you can only operate for one for one firm within the industry in which you operate. So that firm has to be registered with us. Your Fidelity Fund certificate will cover you as an estate agent, your floating FFC, if you are a full status agent or a candidate. If you're a principal, you will know that you can, in fact, operate under more than one firm, as long as those firms are all properly registered with us. So that still applies, yes.
Thank you for that. I think it might just be worth ensuring that the agents are aware of that, because with the floating FFC new changes, it might become confusing. The second question is, what is the process for change employers to go from one firm to another? Is it exactly the same as applying for an FFC, complete the application form and just send it in, or what is that process?
Okay, for change of employment, it's basically the same as what it was before. What you're going to do is you're going to submit to us a application form to be registered under a new entity and requesting that you are deregistered under the current one. You will submit also your letter of employment in the format that we require, which is signed by both your new employer and yourself, and then you will submit to us proof of payment that is required of the admin fee that is required for that to happen. You will not be required to get a new Fidelity Fund certificate because your FFC doesn't say who you are employed for. Okay, which also explains the reason as to why we are requiring that everybody's personal address is given to us for it to be put on the on your FFC. The Act requires us to put your geographical address, that's yours, the holders, not your firm's, because as soon as you apply or to be changed or to move over to another employee, that FFC now is no longer valid because it's got the incorrect address on it. Okay, so that's basically how you do an employment change. And you have to make sure that those documents all come in to us correctly. I can just also mention, while we're on the point, please be aware that in terms of the regulations, you are required to advise us within 14 days of any change of the records which you have given us previously and how we registered you. So within 14 days of becoming unemployed at one place and moving to another place, you are required to advise us, okay, and to request us to move your employment. If you don't do that, and your employer, your previous employer says, this person is not working for us anymore, we are obliged to deregister you, okay? That means when you do come and tell us, I'm moving to another firm, you now have to do a re-registration, which is going to cost you a lot more money, okay? And that's because we have to be aware, and the firm is entitled, your previous employer, to say, please remove him from us. We are not, he's not employed with us anymore. And you yourself are obliged within the 14 days to advise us of that change. Okay, thank you. Yes?
Thank you very much for that.
Yes. Okay.
Last question and just a comment. I just wanted to say, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've registered approximately 13 new candidates, and it all has happened relatively painlessly. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. So the last question is, how do we do a name reservation? I've been battling since the middle of January to get a name reservation done for a firm, and we just not get it. Who do I send it to? Does it go to registrations at the PPRA.org, or where does it go?
Okay. Perhaps I can, yes, the registration email address is the correct place, but because of the fact that this is something else we can't do anymore on the portal, because of the portal issues, it's something we're having to do manually. So I apologize, there does seem to have been a bottleneck with reservations. Please send it to reservations, to FFC, not FFC renewals, registrations. But if you find that you are not being assisted, please, you can also send it to Lerato, okay? And we can put Lerato. Can you put your email address on the chat group, please, so that people know for name reservations they can also address it to you if needed. Thanks.
And I've tried 4 times and I've not had a single response from anybody.
Okay, well, perhaps if you can just put your details also in the chat for Lerato, and let Lerato again get hold of you as soon as possible to assist with that. Lerato, will you do that, please?
Will do. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I think for Nicolette in the Q&A, where you are saying 9 agents, they have not received their FFC, maybe also email Lerato on the email address that she's going to share, maybe with an Excel sheet showing the name, surname, the 7-digit, so they can check the status of that FFC. Maybe it's already issued and they can share with you. And let's go back to the hands. I'll come back to Q&A. Let's go to Chris. Please unmute yourself, Chris.
Thank you very much. I've paid my FFC application. I've also submitted all the audited financial statements. We have then called several times without any indication that we might not have applied to the correct new act. So the court, the call center is not well informed to inform us that we have to follow the new processes. I also understand that there is a lot of delays from implementation and IT issues, and my recommendation would be, why is this not being implemented in phases so that everyone, every agent, every different category can come on par for maybe giving them a grace period this year up till the end of 2026.
Okay, the system has been implemented in phases right from 2022 when this came in. We are now 3 years later, and we have given people grace period for the first 6 months. We then required people to use the manual registrations process, which we have done for non-estate agents, and there's been a grace period in respect of those registrations. We are using a phased-in approach in relation to the 12 industries, in that we are doing the floating FFC. We did the floating FFC change first. We then have done the 12 industry change to be able to put it into the system, and the portal is having to be changed all at the same time. Unfortunately, we can't leave the portal up and without developing it while we are in fact developing the other issues on the SAP system. So those have to go hand in hand. I'm not an IT person. IT have got the plans which indicate how and what the best way is, which they've prepared with our service providers. But we've certainly done that. We've certainly done a phased-in approach, and we've certainly given grace periods for the last 3 years.
The portal is our information center, which is not up to date, and we cannot apply until it is up to date. A date of end of March, end of April was mentioned. That is a delay to issue a FFC. It is not acceptable. We need first to have everything in place before we implement.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, a date at the end of April. I have no idea what you mean. There's been no date at the end of April for anything.
Earlier in the discussion, the presentation, there was a date mentioned, either end of March or end of April. I cannot remember that, but there's an end of March, which I think, and the IT is not 100% perfect. And you indicated also that we need to follow the manual process. But for us, the portal is really the information session where we get all the info from. And if the portal is not up to date, there's a lot of delay of issuing an FFC.
Okay, let me just repeat what I said. The letters that we are issuing to those whose FFCs have been issued, but who are not showing on the portal, are for those who we have not yet been able to send copies to use to confirm that you are compliant, you have a Fidelity Fund certificate, and you can be paid your commission and you can operate within the entity. Those are valid until the end of April. I did not say that anything is being delayed until the end of April. I did not say that nobody is getting FFCs till the end of April. What I did say is, while we are issuing copies to people who are unable to download their FFCs or whose FFCs are not showing on the portal, those letters can be used in order not to require you to wait until the end of April to be able to operate lawfully. So I think we've put in place what we can in relation to that. As far as the portal, I've explained what the issues are with the portal. I've explained why it is the way it is, and I've explained what the way around it is. Please send an application or a query to the registrations inbox or escalate it. If it is not being attended to on time, please escalate it to either Lerato or to myself.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I think also, Michelle, where you are saying if we download the forms from the system, fill in and send them through with all necessary documents, can this be accepted? Yes, you can complete the form and send them to the registrations email that will assist. Andres, you say, can you please explain the process of how to deregister a principal of a firm? I think maybe Advocate, you didn't get it when you were going through the slides, how to deregister a principal of a firm.
Okay. All right. This is not something that I covered in this presentation because I've covered it in so many presentations previously. And you must remember that when you are ceasing to operate under a specific firm, as a principal, you are required to comply with Section 54(9) to Section 54(40). These subsections say specifically what you are required to do.
I just paid him a hell lot of money, and
I'm going to mute. Sorry about that.
People. Thanks.
Carol Bennett. Let me
Hi,
mute.
can you hear me?
Please mute so that we can talk.
I muted her.
Can you hear me?
Apparently she can unmute herself.
Hello?
Okay, who else is speaking? I'm trying to see. Andres. You may continue, Advocate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for a deregistration, first of all, if you are deregistering and you have a trust account, there are quite a lot of things you have to do. So if the firm is closing down, the first thing you have to do is advise us that your firm is ceasing to operate and you request that we deregister the firm. Along with that request, you send us a winding up audit report from the date of your last audit up to the date that your trust account was closed by the bank. And that must be submitted to the audit portal through your auditor. He will do that via the audit portal. You also have to send us a document with your email from the bank, which confirms the date on which your trust account was closed. And with that date has to marry up and tie up with the date of the winding up audit. Okay. Once that is done, you then have to send us your letter confirming that any payments out of the trust account to any trust creditors have been paid, have been made, and that you request us to deregister. And your principal is the person who submits that application. Is there anything I've forgotten, Lerato?
No,
Thank you.
You've covered everything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that's what needs to happen. and your firm is only deregistered once we have effected that deregistration, and then we will remove and delink the principal from that firm, and that firm becomes deregistered in our books. Okay.
Hello, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sorry, I just want to find out, as principal, I'm moving to a different agency, so I want to deregister under the current one, so the company will still go on.
Okay, I
No, you
muted
can't.
who was speaking.
No.
I'm not sure because they didn't raise their hands, but did you get that?
Okay, yes, I did. First of all, your principal can only move and leave the firm as a going concern if there is another principal who is continuing in his place and has been registered as such. Otherwise, you can't do that. You have to close down the firm and deregister it with us. Otherwise, you will not be dealing with it.
Okay, thanks. Michael, please unmute. Michael?
Hello, hi, lady. How are you doing?
Fine.
That's good. Just a quick question. Is there doesn't seem to be any direct communication between registrations and your finance department. So I came back into the industry in December, successfully renewed or got, because my previous FFC was valid to the 31st of December 2025. So I successfully renewed my FFC for 2026 through to 2028. But I've been requesting a statement or of account, as well as an invoice, a paid invoice and a receipt from the EAB email address, as well as I was given by the call center an email address apparently for the finance guy, but that just came back as not valid, and I've had nothing. So I'm just, could there be some kind of correlation where we get a invoice, a receipt, and a statement of account?
Okay, registrations department doesn't deal with financial matters. We cannot give you statements. We cannot give you any of those things. That's something that the finance department has to give you. If you have a problem with finance and you're not getting any assistance, then please will you either email Murendeni, who is the debtors manager. Lerato, would you put Murendeni's email address onto the chat, please? And you can either do it to him, otherwise escalate it to the CEO.
Okay.
And please specify that it's a finance matter. We have a huge number of people sending finance matters to us. We send them on to finance, but we have little way of ensuring that you get what you want, because we have no access to any of the finance statements.
Thank you, Advocate. It's just that I can't seem to find any contact details for the finance department on the portal.
On the website, yes, they do that on purpose. And so I'm not popular when I give their details out, but I am actually a little bit fatigued with having constantly to field queries that relate to finance department. So please do use that one. Murendeni is the debtors manager. Most of yours will go to the debtors manager, and I must say, when he gets it, he's very good at signing it. But his staff seem to be a little slower. So yeah, perhaps do that. Otherwise, escalate to the CEO.
Yeah, it's because the interest and the penalties mount up, and
Yes.
one doesn't want to have to go to the small claims court or whatever to sort it out. Just a bit of direct feedback. It should be quite simple. But thank you very much. Thank you, Naledi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Advocate.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Please mute yourself. Let's go to the second hand. Linda? Colleagues, if you're not asking a question, please mute because you're creating echo at the back. Linda,
Okay,
please ask.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good morning. Firstly, I have a comment and two questions. My first comment is
1,500. The 15,000 went out of my Standard Bank account.
Okay, so my comment is firstly to Advocate File. I want to thank you for the assistance that you gave our company, my office specifically, and to Tabang personally, I actually did email him to thank him for his assistance. We have 45 renewals that have now all been done. So that was greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I
And,
did get your email.
yeah.
We appreciate that feedback. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so my question is this, and I'm sorry if I'm looking for clarity where it isn't required, but with EXP, when agents join EXP, even if they hold a principal FFC with the company, they have to be registered as non-principals. So does the status change require them to have a second FFC, or do they invoke the floating FFC?
Okay, they don't need to have a special FFC. Your FFC template is now prescribed by the Act and the regulations. And if you look at it, you'll see that there's nothing on it which says what your status is. So if you are, for example, a principal at various firms, but you are a non-principal or a full status agent under another firm, then the same Fidelity Fund certificate will be valid in respect of all of those.
And no 640 Rand to show the fact that he is registered as the principal with the company.
Okay, sorry, we're being interrupted by somebody who's not muting. Now, Lady, can we just identify, because I can't speak over this person.
Yeah, I'm also trying to find, I'm muting and I'm going to remove them from the meeting.
Thank you.
Can you just reply to Richard quickly? Richard is trying to go on.
It's the same person as we had before.
Okay,
yeah,
so if I look at his profile.
Just hold on, Advocate.
Okay.
Just hold on. It's Glenys. I keep muting her. She unmutes herself. Let me remove her from the meeting.
Thanks.
Okay,
let's go to the next hand.
Okay, just a minute. I was busy, I think, explaining to this lady about
okay. So if I look at his,
asked about the 640, is that right?
Yeah. So if I look at his profile on the website, it shows he is registered with EXP as non-principal. He is registered as the principal for lifelong. I need that still to reflect on the portal. And do I need to pay 640 Rand for that to happen?
For the fact that he is a non-principal with you?
With one and a principal with the other, yeah.
No, he will, if he's under the other firm, he will have got his Fidelity Fund certificate and it will be valid for that firm as well as your firm. Then if that firm needs an FFC, his own firm, and if that firm's FFC has expired, he will need to pay 640 for that FFC to be renewed. He will not need to pay anything for your firm for a renewal for your firm. If he is already registered with your firm, he will have paid the requirements, the required amount in order to be so registered and to reflect that in our report.
Okay, thank you. My second question is actually, I don't know that it is a registrations question, but I'm desperately trying to find an answer. And because the agent is unable to actually proceed, he has severe learning disabilities, and I cannot get anyone, and maybe you can just tell me who, to find out whether there are any concessions that are granted against the educational requirements for a non-principal agent, if this is real. I mean, it is in, so I don't know who to ask, but I have, it's a real situation.
Okay, the best person to approach with that question is the Executive Manager of Education. I did put her name in the slide. It's Zandile Mahlangu.
Okay, that's her.
Yes, that's her. And she, look, they're obliged by law to have special provisions made, and I'm sure that they will do either by way of an oral exam or something like that. So I don't know what the arrangements are, but they certainly must assist you in some way.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the webinar.
Thank you so much.
Naledi, can I come in?
No, ma'am. No, you can't come in. I have to recognize you. You have to raise your hand. Let's go to Laura.
Morning, everyone. I have a question. I have just received my FFC certificate last week, thank you. And I unfortunately left school at the age of 16 to travel and work overseas. I would like to ask what my best way forward is into becoming a compliant full status agent, and if there are any recommendations regarding RPL, for example, or education requirements.
Okay, ma'am, you need to get hold of Zandilia Maslango on that. I'm not involved with education. I
Yeah.
cannot assist you.
I'll forward your query to education. I'll drop my email on the chat. I'll link you up with the manager in education. They can have a meeting with you to assist. Let's go to Nerissa.
Thank you.
Please ask your question.
Good morning. My question is regarding the Cape Town offices. If I can get some assistance, please. The systems are always offline when I go there, and they're restarting. Nothing happens for over an hour and a half. I did email Advocate VL, but I didn't get a response. So I just wanted to find out if we escalated, how long can we wait to get a response?
Okay, as far as Cape Town is concerned, we've all had a number of issues relating to the development, which has affected Cape Town as well. And there are far fewer agents there. I think there's only 2, and that act for us. So it makes it very difficult for those people to go in and get timely assistance. So you are welcome to escalate to either myself or to Lerato, who is here. If you sent it to me, it would have been assigned to somebody for assistance who should have come back to you. I don't know what the time frame is, but if they haven't, please contact Lerato. I think she's put her email address in the chat, and she will be able to follow up and find your query and assist you further.
Thank you so much.
Maybe, Nerissa, what I'll do, I'll also escalate it to the chief corporate who deals with facilities at Cape Town offices and setting them up, and just bring them this to their attention if it's issues of network and connection, so they can prioritize it, so that when you send applications, the staff that side can be able to work. Let's go to Mavis. I've put my email on the chat, colleagues. Send the queries that are not related to FFC. I'll link you up with the correct manager to sit with you and assist you. Finance, education, CPD, we will allocate them to the relevant department. Mavis, please ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. I think you did drop the email address. I will communicate with Lerato because we have one of our colleagues. He did apply for the FFC last year, February. But when we did payments, we just missed it with the number, so it went to a wrong allocation. So we did send the proof of payment, everything that they asked us to do. So it's been a year. So
okay.
Today, so but I saw that we need to communicate to Lerato. I hope maybe we'll get help this time.
Yeah, because that one, it will need finance to reallocate it to the correct reference number. It could be sitting in suspense. So will that proof of payment will take it to Murendeni so that we can put it under your profile so it can issue. And also provided that the documents are correct and compliant, but they will communicate. Thank you for that. Let's go to Yolandi. Yolandi, please unmute.
Hi there. I just wanted to check FFCs for professional valuers. Is that necessary? Do we have to apply?
No, valuers do not fall within the PPA, so you don't need to register with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwyn.
Hi, I do have a question. We have filed, we requested affidavits and paid and have yet to receive them. You did mention earlier, Deborah, that the Property 24 and private property have to have a license. We have filed complaints with them and heard absolutely nothing back. What is the status on these complaints, and how do I get my affidavits or my money back?
Okay, well, you're speaking to the wrong person. I'm not legal, I'm not enforcement. And the person who you need to speak to is Clarence Caton. His name is CLARENCE.Caton, CATIN, at theppra.org.za. He deals with enforcement, complaints, and legal.
Yeah,
So
I will link them up.
So who is responsible though for ensuring that unlicensed agents are mandated to get their license? Is it not registration?
No, it's not. It's enforcement.
Let's go to Kes.
Good morning. We applied for an exemption from holding a trust account, and we sent all our documents. PPRA has come back and requested annual financial statements from our auditor for the past 3 years. These statements were submitted when they are due or when they were due, but our auditor tried to resubmit them as requested, but the auditor portal does not allow him to submit these documents. Can you tell us how we can submit these documents, please?
Yes, you have to submit them to the audit compliance, because if you are closing a trust account and now you want to be exempted, I'll share the email now. Just resend them so that they can process your exemption. I'll share the email now. Just look on the chat shortly. Let's go to Pulani.
Sorry, can I just add, lady, before we move on? If they are not, if you're not getting assistance or you find that you're not being helped, please do email the audit manager, who is Thomas, THOMAS.makupo, MAKUPO, at theppra.org.za, and ask him to please escalate the matter.
Okay. Thank you, Advocate, for that. Let's go to Pulani.
Good day. I just need clarity and understanding on employment change. I heard you speak about deregistering and re-registering. So 3 years ago, I started off with a firm as a candidate, as a candidate practitioner. And shortly after that, I went on maternity. So when I was on maternity, I was told that the firm there's change of ownership. So there's change of ownership. So now I was told that they're gonna remove me from the system. So I don't know. Now I'm coming back into the industry. I'm ready to work, but I'm going to start with the new firm. So, but I did hear you say that when you change employment, you have to re-register. Can you please give me clarity on that? I thought that I was just going to renew my FFC, but now I have to re-register.
Okay, what I said, just to clarify, is that if you are working for one firm and you leave that firm, in terms of the regulations, you have 14 days to advise us of what new firm you are going to be working for, and to apply for us to change your employment to that firm. If you don't do it within 14 days, we will deregister you. We are obliged to do so because you cannot be an estate agent who is not a principal and without having a firm associated with you, an employer, as an employer. So if you are on our system and we know that you are no longer employed at one firm, that firm may have advised us of that fact, and we are obliged after 14 days to remove you as an estate agent or as a property practitioner, because of the fact that you cannot operate without a firm. A firm has a trust account. You have to have access to the trust account. You have to be able to comply, and you have to work under the supervision of a principal. So you cannot operate without being associated with a firm. So on that basis, after 14 days, if you haven't come to us and said, okay, please, this is my new employment, can you please transfer me? We will deregister you. And in that case, you will have to re-register when you come back. So when you come back, you will have to come in. I don't know if there were if you got FFCs for the period that you were away, or if you still have a valid FFC, but there may be penalties available, applicable. There may be whatever fees are required depending on what you did and what you didn't do in the period that you were out and how long you were out for. But you can reapply to be registered. You will be registered under the firm that you applied to be registered under, with your employment letter and your proof of payment. And if you submit that, they will re-register you. You will have to pay for your registration and for a fidelity fund certificate to be issued from now when you register.
Okay. No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the second hand. Sylvester, please unmute and ask your question. We'll try to move quickly, colleagues, so we give others a chance because there's 13 hands and also questions on the chat and Q&A. I've pinned Lerato Mulawudzi's email on the chat. Sylvester, unmute and ask.
Hi, good day. This is Ms. Naledi Pando. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I
Lovely,
wish.
ma'am. Lovely. Very
I'm good.
informative. I think we should have more of this interaction discussion. It's going to help the agents as well. I'm just going to say, I'm from the Pietermaritzburg area. Over the last couple of years, I had to travel to Johannesburg head office to get my registrations done because this online stuff wasn't working for me. Over the counter, they assisted. It was a lot of driving, a lot of sweat, paying the money, then only they assisted. My first question is, if the agents are going to register again through the portal, now that we're having challenges on the portal, okay, is it advisable to drive to the office and get it done? Because once this thing ends, the attorney will get money at the end of the month, you'll get your salary, and the agents won't be getting commission because of all these things. There's a lot of legalities attached to this, with agents waiting to get their commissions. And the minute they hear there's a dispute that you don't have it, that agent is going to be done away with in terms of their bread and butter on the table. The other agencies where there's a dispute that says you're not legally entitled to commission simply because of the delay of the PPRA. Now, I'm saying as a seller, going forward, in order to someone to come up with a brilliant idea, I think I've got that brilliant idea. Let the FFCs be valid for 10 years, like your passport. So we're not back and front, back and front. We want to establish ourselves good in the industry, at least valid for 10 years, one. And then the next thing is, after 10 years, I think a full status agent deserves the right to become a principal and open their own practice. I'm 18 years in the industry, and all I've been challenged with is regularities, and I'm complying with all the regularities. It's 18 years. I could have been a doctor 3 times over, a medical doctor. And the institution, the PPR has made it so difficult for us just to work, to earn a living, because that's our constitutional right. We don't have unions fighting for us, nothing. So we get tossed like a ball to and from. At least give us the 10 years Fidelity Fund certificate. Then we don't have to see you all in 10 years, hear about your problems in 10 years. You understand? That's the first thing. Then the next thing is, what's there for BEE? I'm a black man. There's been regularity since I joined the industry.
Yes, advocate.
Can I just ask you to stop this agent? You know, this is a registration portal. I am not involved with transformation. I have nothing to do with transformation. I cannot assist. Okay. I also don't have. I'm not involved with education, so I can't assist with education either. All I can say is, from a registrations perspective, okay, we've put up notices, we've explained what our problems are. I've explained to you that the new portal, which is coming up, will resolve the issues which we have with the portal. So the portal, it is absolutely no reason for anyone to drive up to Joburg. My email address is there, Lerato's email address is there, Naledi's email address is there. We can assist you. As far as the changes for 10-year FFCs and those kinds of things are concerned, I don't know, but you don't seem to be aware that you operate in a regulated industry, which is regulated by Parliament. It's regulated by an act, which is law. Okay, I didn't make that law. None of us did at the PPRA. It was passed by Parliament.
I understand that, Deborah.
Yes, allow her to finish. We'll come back.
Okay, so Parliament established a law and regulations. We have no right or authority to deviate from that. Okay. We made a lot of submissions before the PPA came in. Some of them were ignored, some of them were included, some of them were bastardized so that they came in a different form, which didn't help anybody. But that is the act that we live with. Okay, we cannot change it. That it's a new act, and to get it changed is going to take another 15 years or 20 years, which is what the last act took. We can change the regulations. We have asked the minister to please look at new regulations that we submit, that we ask her to consider, and hopefully those will make things a little easier. But for the moment,
We operate in a regulated environment, and as such, we unfortunately have to comply with it. Otherwise, we must go and find another career.
Yes, no problem, Deborah. I'm understanding. I'm speaking from somebody who's been oppressed in this environment, and I have a right to speak. Now, listen. 1 second, Naledi Pando. Out due respect, in 2008, the Act stated that if you have served in the field as a 1-year intern estate, okay, as an agent, 1 year, the following year you became full status after serving 1 year. And having been full status, you could then open up your own practice or your own company, which made it very conducive for the previously white agents. Now that all the things have been changed, it's become more difficult.
Yeah.
This is not the forum. This is not the forum for you to be ventilating this. We have people who have questions on registrations. Can we please proceed to them, Naledi?
Yeah, and I think also what he's mentioning, we didn't.
Who would be the right person? Naledi, who would be the right person?
And can we continue with questions?
Yes, I want to tell him you can also email me because I'm in transformation, and then I can assist you.
I love you. I'll
with
go
that.
with you to the minister. I will go with you. Give me what's your email address, Naledi?
It's on the chat. Go to Fontaine. Please ask.
No, we want transformation. Yeah, one more black aid.
Fontaine.
Good morning. I'm sorry if I am reiterating a question that has been dealt with before, but I just wanted to make sure. When I register our agents for the FFC using the registration email, previously when we used the portal, the PIN number was used, and that was used as the reference going forward for proof of payment and the ID documents and everything that needed to be submitted. Do I, instead of using the 7-digit PIN, use the agent's ID number on their proof of payment as a reference, and all of the documentation that needs to be sent in, the application form, the copy of the ID, the letter of employment, and then obviously the proof of payment? Is that the reference number that I used? Would that assist in going forward, since I don't have the PIN number, the 7-digit PIN number? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, certainly. You will have to submit your application form to us so that we can generate the 7-digit PIN. What we usually ask people to do is to submit it to us, but not to do the payment yet, and not to send us the proof of payment. Rather wait until we come back to you with a 7-digit PIN, and then you can make the payment using the 7-digit PIN and send us the proof of payment. The reason for that is, just let me finish. The reason for that is because you can send us the ID, that's fine, but it will delay. It doesn't get automatically allocated, and it will delay finance in finding it and then allocating it manually. There's nothing wrong with that. If you prefer to do that, that's fine. We will just say to you, we now have a 7-digit PIN. We have to ask finance to please find your payment under your ID number and to then allocate it to the correct portal. So that is okay, but one of those alternatives will work.
Okay, so I can send in all the required documentation using the ID number and then just wait for a reply for the 7-digit PIN before making payment. And then,
correct.
So for those that I've done already that has paid using an ID number, once I receive, will they send me a PIN before allocating it so that I can just resend the proof of payment with the 7-digit PIN, or will the whole process now be completed before the?
Yeah, no, you don't need to. If you've already submitted and paid, they won't send you another PIN because on your payment, the 7-digit PIN is not indicated. Your ID is indicated. So giving you the PIN now and resubmitting your proof of payment is not going to help, because it's already with finance. They've already misallocated it to the suspense account or whatever. And all it means is that in that instance, we will then have to we'll do that. We will immediately go to finance and say, I've processed this one, it's correct. They've paid under the ID number, please allocate.
Okay, thank you so much. So going forward, just wait on proof of payment until I've been given the PIN.
Correct. And if you have a problem, please do escalate to me. What's your name?
Cherise.
Cherise, okay. To me or to Lerato, and we will check if there's a problem somewhere with finance.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Let's go to Len. Please unmute.
Hi, thank you very much. I just want to confirm, do individual branches require FFCs or not?
Yes, they do. they will require an FFC. Depends on what the setup is as far as how the business model works, but in most instances they will simply get an FFC, which is basically your main firm's FFC, and it will have a different address on it.
And if that address is incorrect, do we need to pay 640 Rand to have that changed?
It depends whether it was our fault, which it probably was. And if it means that our system has incorrectly put the wrong address on it, we will correct it for free. If it's something that has been entered into our system as correct and it's now no longer correct, it's changed and it hasn't been changed on the system, then you may have to pay that amount. But you simply just engage with us on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to Tammy. Tammy, please unmute.
Hi, thanks so much for the opportunity. I don't want to repeat what has already been said, but just 2 words. Guys, it's extremely difficult to get our FFCs. I paid months ago. I lost good agents because of all this problem of not getting the commissions. So I took all the emails I will send because I've been logging the calls on the website. I've been calling whoever I speak to now and then. I'm told that the system is offline. It's really, really not only frustrating, but it's financially really demolishing many of us and discouraging many good people in this industry. Thank you. I'd like to stop there.
Okay, I apologize for that. As I say, we have had a difficult time, but please do send any ones that you are needing to me or to Lerato, and we will expedite them. And certainly the FFCs which were due from the 1st of January will indicate that. So anybody who was entitled to commission will be able to get their commission.
Okay, thank you, Advocate. Funani?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. So I just want to find out, I have 3 intern agents that we went and registered directly at the PPRA offices, but we have the 7-digit numbers. We don't have the certificates. When we call, we're told to go to the website. However, the website is not working. So my question is, now that they do have the FFCs, we just don't have access to the FFCs. Are they compliant, or should we wait for the actual hard copy before they start working? How do I do it?
Okay. If you wouldn't mind just sending your details to and the names and PIN numbers of the agents to Lerato, she will have IT send you copies of those, and they can, or alternatively, if there's a problem with us getting them off the server, we will send you a letter confirming that they are compliant, they can operate, and they can be paid commission.
All right, thank you so much. One last question. PDE5 certificates, we wrote earlier last year, have not yet received it. I was at the offices, some guy was called, he took my email address, never sent it. Can I please have an email address of the person who can send the PDE5 certificate to me?
Okay,
I'll share Audrey's email.
Zandile Mflangu, her email is on my slides as well as in the chat, I think. So that's the application manager, yeah.
All right, no problem. Thank you so much, guys.
Kate, please unmute.
Hi there. I just wanted to start off by saying, Deborah, thank you so much. You assisted us getting quite a few FFCs through last week, and I really appreciate your prompt response and just getting our whole everybody sorted. I just have a few questions because I work for quite a large agency, and we have multiple candidates that need PINs. Am I able to send one email with everybody's documents, or does it need to be an individual email per person?
So you can send one email. I would suggest that you just make sure that your attachments that you attach, you perhaps zip all your documents for one application so that they're in one attachment, so that there's not a huge amount of confusion between the different attachments. And if you do that, certainly they can give you those PIN numbers for everybody.
Okay, cool. And then my next question is, we applied for a lot of new applicants in October last year, and we haven't received one FFC yet, and we haven't received acknowledgement for one of those people. Can I escalate it to Lerato in one Excel spreadsheet with everybody? Because it's quite frustrating because it's probably about 15 agents that we're waiting for FFCs.
Okay, no, definitely, please do that. Narata, if you make a note of the details of the agent so that we can ensure that that's done fast.
Okay, and then sorry, what my last question, and I don't know if you're the correct person, but maybe you can know. Do you know if the CPDs are coming back online? Because last year the PPRA sent letters of demand to a lot of our agents, and they all paid, but now they still don't have access to CPDs. And I mean, I've escalated, and unfortunately they come back and they say we're busy developing, and there's no answers whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm afraid I can't tell you what is happening in education. They need to assist you with that. So either write to Zandile if you have already, then and you didn't get any assistance, then write to the CEO.
Okay, and then I'm so sorry. I just have one more. Sorry, I have a lot of agents. So I also have an issue with one of our agents who used the wrong reference number, and then I escalated, followed up everything, nothing happened. And they finally came back to me and allocated his payment correctly, but it was a year later. And now they're not issuing his FFC because they said that, no, he was a year late. But they haven't told me, must he pay a penalty or anything? He's just kind of sitting in limbo. I have escalated it to you in November, Deborah, but you didn't get back to me. And this guy's unfortunately sitting in limbo.
Yeah, it was probably allocated to the renewals department to assist, and obviously they don't seem to know what to do either. So maybe if you can perhaps just resend it to me. What's your name?
My name is Kathleen Sharman. I'm from Key One.
Okay, if you'll just please send it to me again, and I will then personally deal with it and see if we can find out what the issue is.
Thank you so much. I'm sending it to you right now.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Thank you. Colleagues, don't be surprised why I'm not reading your questions on the chat. Lerato is responding to them, so we don't want to duplicate efforts. Ishmael, please unmute. Ishmael, please unmute. Okay, I'll go to Maide. Please unmute.
Thank you, Lerato. And
You're breaking.
I have an echo. I don't know what the problem is, but let me pose the question, Lerato.
Advocate, can you hear her?
No, I can't. I can just hear an echo. Maybe she can put it in the chat.
Yes, please put your question on the chat. We're not disadvantaging you. There's a terrible echo in your mic.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I sort out the echo and come back?
Yeah.
Yes, please come back. Yes.
All right, thank you. Please don't.
Tara?
Hi, morning. I just have a quick question. Is there a way for us to view which agents are registered under our firm?
Okay, there isn't at the moment. When the new portal comes in, you will definitely be able to see that. But if you send us a request, we will get back to you with a list of what agents are currently registered under you.
Okay, to who must I send the email, the request?
Lerato, who do you want that sent to?
They can send it to bongosi.ngwenya@thepra.org.za.
Okay,
I will just put the email in the chat.
Okay, Bongosi is somebody who can assist you, and she will put that email in the chat. Okay.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha?
Lerato, can I try again?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let me give.
No, you're still echoing. Sorry, Martha, please unmute.
Hi, I have a quick question. Mine is actually more of clarity. I'm a new property practitioner candidate, and I've just completed PDE for training. I'm waiting to write exam, but then we were advised to actually register for the FFC, and I have paid. But listening to what was said today in terms of the 30 days, I don't know how that is going to affect me because I'm still waiting to write the test in March. Sorry.
Okay, when did you pay and apply for an FFC?
It was last week.
Okay, so what we need to do is try and escalate it for you see if we can get it out in time for your exam. If you can just send it to Lerato with what's your name?
My name is Corey.
Corey.
Lilak,
Okay, Lerato,
yes.
if you can maybe just look out for that one and just check, ask licensing to just check if they've got all the documents and the payments and if they can issue that urgently. It may be that we have to register first. I'm not sure. But if it's a registration that has to happen, then we can ask one of our guys to just quickly expedite it so that the lady can write her exam.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So will you send it to Lerato's email address and she'll get back to you.
I also have Nali's email address. Okay. Thank you. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's go to Nolene. Nolene, please unmute. Nolene? Okay, I'll come back to Nolene. Matsidiso?
Thank you, Naledi. Deborah, we know we don't receive any auto response when we submitted the emails. And then secondly, I'm so disappointed that one of the consultants told me that if I want my FFC, I have to come to Sandton. And if I come in person, I'll be assisted.
That's
And
probably the call center. Was that the call center who told you that?
yes.
Well, that's not correct, ma'am. I don't know why they said that. As I said, we've
And I do, and I do believe him because I've submitted and I paid for FFC renewal and change of ownership in October, 30th October last year. And today,
sorry,
I don't have
I
the
don't understand
FFC.
what a change of ownership is.
So sorry, change of firm.
Change of
Well,
employment
that's why,
applicants.
you will remember that if on the website in our notice, we specified in November already that there were two types of applications that we were having difficulty in processing because of a system development, and the system wasn't allowing us to do it. The one related to issuing FFCs for principals who had more than one firm, and the other one related to people who were asking for an employment change at the same time as they wanted to renew their FFC. For some reason or other, as we said in the notice, the system was not allowing us to do that, and we were waiting for our developer to come back to assist us. So it's only during January that we've been able to get that problems resolved. So we're working with a bit of a backlog as far as they're concerned, and we're doing them as fast as we can. So that is the reason for that. And it's got nothing to do with whether you come in or whether you don't come in, because those that came in weren't able to get that done any more than anybody else was. But what you just need to do, please, is to submit your details and your F number and your documents to Lerato, and she will have that FFC then printed.
I did that already. I just forwarded my email to Lerato now.
Well, then she will deal with it.
Okay, and another thing you said that remember it's February, and meaning that for January I couldn't sell. I couldn't because my agency need FFC. So you said even if you didn't get your commission in January, remember I can't sell. So there's no commission. Even if you can backdate my FFC, I won't get any commission because I'm unable to work.
You have a question, ma'am?
No, I'm responding to you saying that your commission, you'll get your commission.
I think maybe she's talking about if you traded, because remember with conveyancers, because we work with conveyancers as well, they will give you commission if you have FFC. I think advocate is referring if you were operating and you have applied here at the PPRA from the January. I think she was referring to that. So if you didn't trade, it means maybe obviously because you didn't work, maybe issues of stock or customers, obviously we won't get to that. But she was talking about practitioners who operated.
Yeah, but Naledi, we can't trade. We can't trade because we don't have FFC.
Yeah,
Our
but I'm
agency
saying you had
doesn't allow
applied,
it.
right?
So now I want to know that because now I've lost January. It's February now. I don't have FFC certificate. Is the FFC going to be extended for an extra a month?
No, the
answer would
FFC,
be
remember,
no.
it's a yearly. It's
3
years, so you count the year.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
So now I'm saying I've lost a month, and it's February now on the 11th. Still, I don't have a certificate.
Yes,
So
but remember,
meaning
if you were entitled to it, if you applied on time, documents were compliant.
I did.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you hear what I'm saying? Yes, remember, if we were at fault, they will give you that letter to confirm that you were supposed to get FFCs. But on the issues of you didn't work, obviously we can't answer on why you didn't operate at the time. But she can answer on the issues of if you were entitled for FFC.
So can they, okay, at least issue letters then saying that you received documents, you are still busy processing FFC? Maybe.
Yeah, they will check. They'll have to check, because we have to check if even all those documents were correct, you completed correctly,
I've just forwarded an
and
email
so
to
on.
Lerato.
Yeah, they will check.
Naledi,
Let's go to
Naledi, can I please come in? I've tried now.
Okay, it's fine. I'll allow you to skip because you were on the line and you were affected by echo. You can ask your question.
Thank you very much, my dear. And thank you to Deborah. First one, if Deborah can just maybe clarify the issue of exemptions in respect of trust accounts. My understanding was that you first have to open the trust account and then apply for exemption. Please clarify, Deborah, if I'm correct with that. The second question for you is that I have had an agent who applied for FFC last year in November. We had a reference PIN that was generated by the portal. At that time, the portal was working. And then we used that reference number together with the ID to make payments, to complete the forms, and attach all the documents that were required. Pretty much everything else that you requested. We have never, and then at that time when we were ready to submit, the portal was not working, and then we submitted via the registration email. To date, we did not receive any acknowledgement. There's no FFC. It has just gone quiet. So we don't know what to do with that agent. And I have 3 others on the line to apply. So I'm not so sure whether now we should be applying through registration or whether the portal will come up. So please clarify those issues so that we know what the way forward is. But with respect to this one who has already applied, I think you somehow gave me a way forward that we should escalate the matter to yourself or Lerato. But please clarify the issue of the trust account, whether one can just start by applying for exemption, even if the trust account does not exist. Because my understanding of an exemption is that you have something and you want to be exempted. But if that is not the case, then I can straight away apply for exemption. Clarify that for me, Deborah. I want to ask the question about the relationship between PPRA and the Charter Academy with respect to the CPD, because you said we should go to the education department for that. Thank you very much. Those were my 2 questions.
Well, thank you, ma'am. As far as the latest one is concerned, yes, please escalate it to Lerato. She will get somebody onto that and expedite those FFCs. I'm not sure what the issue is. It may be a payment allocation or something from finance, or it may be that they have actually been issued, but they're just not showing on the portal or whatever. But anyway, if you send it to Lerato, please, Lerato will, as a matter of urgency, assist you with that. As far as the application for an exemption from holding a trust account is concerned, your application is to be exempted from the provision which requires you to hold a trust account. So that means you don't have to hold a trust account first. You can, as soon as you register your firm, along with your registration application, you can send in your affidavit to the audit department applying for you to be exempted from holding a trust account. You don't have to have a trust account first. And if you did have a trust account, you would then have to close it and go through all the hoops of providing us with proof from the bank that the trust account is closed, the date of closure, your winding up report, etc., so that the bank can confirm that everything there has been done. And then on the basis of simply your exemption application, they can say you don't have to open a trust account. You simply complete the affidavit, send it into audit. They can then confirm with us that they have granted that. They'll send you your letter confirming it, and you don't ever need to open a trust account.
And just maybe a follow-up question, Deborah, there is a quantum in terms of your annual income at which point you are now liable to apply for a trust account, right?
Okay, you must remember there are two provisions in the regulations relating to an exemption from a trust account. The one is in terms of regulation section 23, which allows you to be exempted from holding a trust account and be exempted from having your documents and your financials audited by an auditor and allowing you to do it through an accountant if your turnover is less than 2.5. However, there is another provision which has to be read in conjunction with that. So if you look at the two provisions, what they're basically saying is, if you don't take any trust money,
yes,
and your turnover is less than 2.5, you can first of all be exempted from holding a trust account because you don't hold trust money, and you can then be exempted from having an auditor audit your financials. If, however, you do take trust money, then you must have a trust account irrespective of what your turnover is. Okay.
Would you consider money that is paid for the purchase of PTOs? Would you consider that as money that falls within the category of money to be paid into the trust account? Because remember, with the PTOs, you don't have to go through to the conveyancer through the 3 months period of the deeds office. The properties are registered with tribal authorities in respective areas where they are located. And so I would just hold that money temporarily while we are going to the tribal authority to make a change of ownership in terms of your PTOs. Would you regard that as money that is supposed to be held in a trust account?
Okay, that is definitely trust money. If it's money that doesn't belong to you yet, and it belongs to somebody else and you are holding it in trust for somebody else, then it is trust money, and then you have to put it into a trust account.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Clear.
Thank you. Let's go to Keith. Keith, please unmute.
Hello. Yeah, good morning. It's Keith Patel here. I used to be a principal up to 2010, and I deregistered my business, as I was told by the board, in 2018. But I've been struggling to get a FFC since then. In the meantime, I came into your office, and the person who helped me said I must have proof of my deregistration of my company, which I provided. We went to the relevant person there, and they said everything is fine. I need to do an NQF4. So I'm busy doing the NQF4, but I would like to, in the meantime, apply for a FFC because I'm with Enet Property. Is that going to be possible? And also, will there be no penalties because I'm an older agent getting back into the business? So that's my question.
Okay. As far as the obtaining of a Fidelity Fund certificate is concerned, that's fine. All you need to do is to apply to register as a candidate. You will be registered under the firm that you have, and as long as that firm is compliant, they will issue you with a Fidelity Fund certificate. So you go through the application form, you submit the employment letter, etc., and we'll register you as a candidate. As far as the payment is concerned, you have to pay for your new FFC registration. Whether there are penalties or not, I have no idea. That's something that they will have to check for you. And the question then will be whether at the time you deregistered with us, as you were required to do in the under the legislation then. And if you didn't, whether there are penalties that have accrued in relation to the fact that you didn't then get an FFC every year as you were supposed to because of the fact that you didn't deregister. There is a way for you to apply for a waiver of those penalties. So if you were outside the industry and you can prove that you were outside the industry simply by saying in an affidavit that you were not working and this is what you were doing instead, then we will be in a position to submit that to the finance department and for them to consider the waiver of those penalties. And if they waive it, then those penalties will not apply.
Okay, well, as I say, I did deregister my business, and so do I direct my query now to registrations or finance?
To registrations, first of all, ask them to register you. Make sure you pay your renewal fee and
Yes.
submit proof of payment to them. You would probably do what the other lady advised, which is that you first submit all your application documents before you make payment and ask them to please confirm what payment you have to make. They should then give you a PIN number and advise you that you need to pay your normal fee, which is the 2768. And then if there is any penalties, they will advise you of those penalties, and you will then just have to liaise with them and ask, please, can you send me the affidavit, etc., that I have to complete for me to apply for a waiver of penalties, and you can deal with that person.
Okay, my last question is, I saw a notification or a letter from the PPRA which said that older agents getting back into the business were going to be exempted from the penalties. Am I correct?
Please send it to me. Please send it to me because I've never seen it. I certainly didn't issue it.
Okay, well, all right, I'll do that. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Advocate. I'll take the last 3 hands before we go to announcements and close because we've already passed the 12 o'clock. Let's go to Len. I think you're coming back again. You did ask, and Quentin, but let's hear you out, Len.
Thank you very much. Quick question. If an agent is operating out of their home with signage on it, does that constitute a branch?
Sorry, we're not hearing. Please repeat.
If an agent is selling, but their home is their office, it's a coastal town, and they've got signage up, is that a branch?
No, it's not a branch. It's the main firm. So it's the head office, the main firm office.
No, it's not head office. It's head office is in Cape Town. It's in Longabaan.
So you're telling me you're running a branch for the main office in Longabaan from your home?
Yeah, out of your home. So, is that a branch?
So your principal, you are not the principal. Your principal is based in Cape Town.
Correct. Do I require an FFC?
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much.
You can get the same. You can get an FFC, which will be the same as the firm FFC, except that it will have your address on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quentin. Please unmute.
Hi, thank you for your time. I just have a question. We have a few agents that moved over from another company, and we applied for the change of employer and the FFC renewal, and it has been processed, but it has been processed under their old employer's name. So they received the new FFC or a renewed FFC under their old employer's name. What could be the process to rectify this?
Okay, just explain to me, the actual FFC shouldn't have an employer's name on it at all. So where's the employer's name?
Oh, sorry, the FFC has been renewed, but the employer has not been changed.
Are you saying on the portal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that something we need to stress about or not yet?
Okay, no, not. I wouldn't stress about it because it's generally the problem is that the portal's not showing correctly at the moment. But please do, in any event, send Lerato an email just to confirm that we have got it correctly in our records. I'm sure that we have, but I must tell you that unfortunately the portal is showing all sorts of nonsense at the moment. Not what we wanted to hear. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's go to Ibrahim.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I registered my agency back in about 2009, and I met the necessary requirements, and I was issued with my FFC as a principal. I recently wanted to register a second agency, and I was told that my qualification or the educational requirements, I'm short in the sense that I still need to do the PDE 5. So I was trying to understand, in light of the fact that I've got a valid FFC, I thought that allows you to participate or be the principal in more than one agency. Am I missing something?
No, it does allow you to, but you can't get registered as a principal if you don't have the requirements in terms of the regulation of 2008. So if I can just explain to you, before 2008, there were certain requirements for property practitioners to operate. They were minimal. And then in 2008, the EAAB began what they called the professionalization of the industry. And part of that professionalization was the publishing of the regulations, which set out the training that was needed for property practice, for estate agents. Okay. In terms of that, estate agents had to come into the industry and do a candidacy or an internship. They had to pass an NQF4 in real estate. They had to then pass their PDE4, which was their junior board exam. They wanted to be a principal. They had to do their NQF5, which was a master's of real estate. And then they had to do their PDE5, which is their senior board exam. Now, in terms of that regulation, if you had an FFC as a principal for 5 years prior to 2008, you could be exempted from that. If you didn't, you had to go and get those qualifications within 2 years. That 2 years was extended, I think, 5 or 6 times. And the last extension, I think, expired in 2018 or 2019. So at the moment, as I understand it, and bear in mind, I'm not an education expert, but as I understand it, currently, you cannot operate as a principal if you don't have those qualifications. Where there's nothing in the Act which says we can withdraw your paternity fund certificate if you are currently in possession of an FFC as a principal and you're operating as a principal. But in terms of Section 50, we cannot give you another FFC and we cannot register you under another firm as a principal because of the fact that you don't have the qualifications.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Let's go to Nolene. Please unmute. Quickly, colleagues. Nolene. Okay, let's go to Linda. Linda, please unmute. Okay, let's go to Elrin. Please unmute. Elrin?
Sorry, you were quoting me off guard there. I think my main question was answered by the lady from Fontaine with our new candidate that we had sent. I made them complete the application form, their ID, and their letter of employment. And that was done last year already. So none of them have heard anything back from the PPRA. Obviously, we haven't procured any payment as we didn't have a 7-digit number and we were not sure whether the ID would suffice, which has now been clarified the ID would not suffice and we must wait for the 7-digit number.
Please just send it to Lerato and let her follow up on it so that she can expedite and then they can give you your 7-digit number and you can make payment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Advocate.
Okay, Elrin.
Okay,
Lerato's
thanks,
email
Lerato.
is pinned on the chat again. For those who are looking for Lerato's email address, it's pinned on the chat. Jenny, let's take the last hand. Please unmute. Jenny? Okay, maybe I'm also catching her off guard as well, because I'm catching everyone off guard. Maybe they've stepped out. But colleagues, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. And you will see that most of the questions on the chat and most of the questions on the Q&A space, we did not call them out or read them out because Lerato was busy trying to respond to them. And we did put email addresses on the chat for departments that are unrelated to FFC. So for education, for transformation, you can email me. For finance, for audit, we did share the email addresses. I also shared my email address and I'm going to send you the slides. So if you remember a question after the webinar, drop me that question. I'll forward it to Advocate Vile. And I want to, okay, Jenny, you want to, I see you're unmuted now, so I don't disadvantage you with closing the webinar.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day all. I just want to double check. We've received our principals FFC and our firm FFCs. The 640 Rand, must we still pay that, or did we get that for free?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes, that is a question which has been exercising our minds as well, because there were some firm FFCs that we issued without payment before the finance department was in a position to issue invoices. So we are waiting for them to advise us. All I can tell you is that don't make payment at the moment. I think the best thing to do is to wait and see whether you get invoiced for it, and they will decide whether they are invoicing those people or whether they're those who got theirs before the new invoices came in are not being required to make payment. So we will advise you of that. But if you do get an invoice, then you will need to pay it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, colleagues, for joining the webinar today. Advocate Vile, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to announce that on Friday, the 13th of February, we do have another webinar, just doing guidelines for consultants, especially those who call themselves runners, who come to our offices. And Advocate Vile is going to do another presentation. And I think these webinars are important, Advocate. We need to do them often. So that we can resolve some of the issues, especially as we are seeing them on our social media and the emails that we are getting, so that we can help you as much as we can. So I'll share the slides. The recorder will post it tomorrow on our PPRA TV so that you can access it there. Some of the questions, because we've exceeded the time, because I have another meeting that I have to go to, please send me the emails, and I will send the questions to Advocate Vile so that she can assist you. Lerato is here. The email address is there, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Naledi, can I just
yes, Advocate.
Before you finish, everybody, if you would like to join the webinar on Friday, if you're a consultant or a runner, or even if you are somebody who deals with an administrator who deals with all your company's FFCs for people, and you've got quite a few that you need to deal with, you might find it interesting as well. So yeah, we will cover some of the same ground, but not all of it. And we will also, deal with some other issues specifically applying to consultants. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Advocate. And maybe also to add on that, we have another webinar on the 25th of February. We're going to look at contracts. We're going to look at offer to purchases, for those who are in the selling business. There's guidelines that Dale Nkambule in the Adjudications Department will take you through to align it with our guidelines in the legislation. And we're going to speak ownership, beneficiary ownership. So look out for those links, look out for the flyers. We're going to put them on social media so that you can join our webinar. Colleagues, thank you so much. I think we can now exit the webinar. Enjoy your lunch. If you're driving, drive safe, and all the best in your businesses, practitioner.
Thank you very much,
Advocate. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.